Donald Trump tried to stop this. He put in an executive order. It wasn't supposed to be taught at any level of the government in any of the agencies. Some of the agencies, like the CDC, pushed back hard. They, I think, almost doubled their effort until the last few days of the Trump administration, knowing that Biden was coming in and they'll go right back to business. The guy who has really been instrumental in covering all of this is the contributing editor for the City Journal. His name is Christopher Rufo. He is also the director for the Center on Wealth and Poverty. And I wanted to talk to his role on critical theory and what's happening. Christopher, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you? I'm
very good. Can I ask you just an honest question here at the very beginning? You're a guy who's been involved with AEI. You have played a leader in many ways, but you're a journalist. Why did this story catch you and now suck you in to where you're one of the leading voices and really helping assemble teams to stop it?
Yeah, it kind of happened by chance at first. I suppose like any good story, any journalist that catches on, it always is kind of something that operates at the periphery and catches your attention. And I had received leaked documents from a City of Seattle training that were so outrageous. They were dividing people by race. They were telling white employees that they had to stand and admit their complicity in white supremacy and atone for their collective guilt. I mean, it was straight out of the kind of Chairman Mao's struggle sessions. I had done a documentary for PBS years ago about China, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks straight to the face. And this one story that I broke in City Journal and gained some traction led to a deluge of now thousands of different leakers from schools, from corporations, from government agencies. And I'm finding that this is a extremely destructive kind of practical political program. But as I've learned more about the ideology, networked with other scholars in the area, it's also a kind of explicit attempt to undermine the institutions of the United States. And frankly, it's working. They've been winning the last couple years because they've been doing it in the shadows.
So let me take you to a story that you just released on January 19th. Missouri Middle School forces teachers to locate themselves on an oppression matrix and watch a video of George Floyd's last words. What you describe in here is really very disturbing. And even in some ways, I think more so than what you found in Seattle. Can you tell this story?
Yeah, this is from a Missouri middle school in Springfield, Missouri. And what the trainers did, these are school employees. They convened their employees, all of the teachers at this middle school. They sent them an oppression matrix, basically saying that white, heterosexual, Christian, English-speaking males are the oppressors, and then other groups are the oppressed. They told teachers to essentially divide themselves up by who are the oppressors, who are the oppressed. Then they sent them a list and had them go through this list of white supremacy. They said property taxes that fund schools are white supremacy. Dressing up as Pocahontas for Halloween is white supremacy. Colorblindness, the idea of trying to see people's character but not their race, is actually white supremacy. And then they went through a whole system of exercises to basically demean and stereotype and degrade these employees who were just outraged. And finally, one employee, actually a white arts teacher who was raised by a black stepfather, he stood up and said in the audio recordings, he said, "Hey, look, I was raised by a black man. He taught me the principles of Martin Luther King. And what you're teaching is actually derived from neo-Marxism, from the a philosopher called Herbert Marcuse. You're teaching us to be Marxists, and this is too much. It actually does nothing to bring us together and to kind of heal racial divisions. It actually divides us further apart." And this person was essentially shut down immediately by the two white diversity trainers. And they basically said, "Hey, we're in control. We know what we're doing. We know where this philosophy comes from. We know that it's a derivation of cultural Marxism, but we're going to do it anyways because that's the program that we have."
So I was talking to Megyn Kelly this week, and I asked her, I said, "So what do we do? How do we take America back?" And she told me, Every single person must stand up. You must go to the school district. You must go to your schools. You have to stop saying, well, I don't want my child ostracized, so I don't want to really say anything. I don't want to stir it up. You must stand up and get yourself a lawyer. Is that the best route?
Yeah, that is. I think there are really kind of three key strategies that we need to work on this. One is state legislatures that you mentioned in the intro. There's no reason that Texas and Florida and Tennessee can't just take the language from the president's executive order and run it through their state legislators to show clearly a division between people who support this kind of racialized ideology and people who don't. The second is parents and grassroots group have to start pushing back. I broke a story a number of weeks ago in the beginning of January of a Cupertino, California school that was forcing 8 and 9-year-old third graders to deconstruct their racial and sexual identities and then divide themselves according to their power and privilege. Again, trying to push this to kids 8 years old. The parents, in this case, Asian American parents, rallied, they pushed back, and they got it shut down. That's got to happen. And then third, this is a legal issue. A lot of these programs in Missouri and California, really everywhere now, are violations of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. They traffic in racial stereotypes. They demean people based on the protected categories. They are a form of workplace harassment and hostile working environments. And this is a clear violation of the law. And that's really the next step that I'm taking to try to take some of these cases to the courts.